Hey, what's up? Scott here. The first thing I wanted to do before talking about the mixing system is go over mixing environments. And this is so crucial no matter what skill level you have. Evaluating and understanding the strengths and limitations of your mixing environment is really key to getting a great sound. Now, if you're just mixing on headphones, that's all right. That can work. But if you're very serious about mixing, I do highly recommend that you get a pair of studio monitors and you try to mix not only with headphones, but also on those monitors, because both can offer huge, important information. So when talking about evaluating your mixing environments, I think it's important to understand that many of us, myself included, are in imperfect spaces. Unless you're exclusively mixing in a well-treated studio, your space may have some limitations. My own space right here is my bedroom. My bed is over there. It is an imperfect space. There are problems with this room that I will never be able to fully address because I'm in a one-bedroom apartment, not a studio. That said, there are things you can do to make your environment sound better, and that's acoustic treatment. And if you don't have any acoustic treatments, I firmly encourage you to get some, because you can control a little bit of your sound. And what kind of acoustic treatments can you get? You can get bass traps, which trap in the lower frequencies. You can help control sonic reflections with acoustic absorption panels. You can decouple your speakers, as I've done here, by putting some foam under them, which helps the lower sound not get absorbed by your desk. There are so many different things you can do with acoustic treatment, and I've linked to a couple great articles on that, and also speaker placement, of course. So that said, you can control your environment, but how do you evaluate your environment? And it's important to evaluate and know what are your strengths and weaknesses. So for that, I'm going to hand things over to Trina Shoemaker, because she's mixed in a variety of different environments, and she knows what to look for and how to consider a new environment when she goes into it. So check that out. And I'm here with Trina Shoemaker.
Hi. I have come in today to shed whatever wisdom I can on how I go about mixing music, which is what I do for my living. But I thought, because we have walked into a room I have not worked in years, and in fact have never mixed in, that I would show you guys at least what I do when I walk into a new room that I've never mixed in, that I'm expected to start mixing in and or recording in. And the very first thing I do is very obvious. I set my chair height so I'm comfortable. I arrange the speakers in a balance that I think is appropriate. And then I play music that I know and that I love and that I understand, and I tune myself into the room. And I'll play a little something now, because I actually really have to do this in order for me to be effective today.
Over the valley, under the sea, there is a new wave rise with me. Yeah, right here we're over the valley, under the sea, there is a new wave rise with me.
Now I'm going to move on to a different song. That song tells me some very specific things I need to know, and it does it in the first verse. It tells me a little bit about lower mid-range and about presence and just about the color. It talks to me a lot about, yeah, basically that one has a great and wonderful lower mid-range and bass response. And it's also analog. It was done in an analog realm. It's quite old. And so it reminds me also of the nature of recordings and mixes that were done on tape versus Pro Tools or digital.
Sure.
And so that in that way it's a little dated as well. Now I need to listen to something that's quite different, because I need to think a little bit about subs, and I need to think a little bit more about, again, just things that I know. Luckily for me, I am familiar with Dynaudio acoustics and speakers. I do mix on them at home, the smaller version. But I will just go through a series of pieces of songs that I know and love, and it will help me know where I am. The first song I listened to, I almost listened to it as an emotional thing because I love it, and I love the way it sounds. But if a record was made on tape and mixed on tape before, I don't know what year, but let's just say 1998 or something like that, they didn't really work with subsonics like we have to now. Cars didn't have the big giant sub speakers, and so music changed, and there's subs now that were simply not available to recording technology previous, and they are now, and are very important. So now I'll listen to something that I know has quite a lot of subs, and just find out what the sub response is in here. I'll do something like this. There's no subwoofer. So let me pick that song, and it just, this stuff just takes me a second. Were I really going to start a mix today, I would probably do this for, more than an hour.
Sure.
I would be listening just to music.
Feels a little better when I'm out on the edge, like a Tarantino movie running through my head. You ain't gonna sleep again until I'm dead. So I'm gonna fly just as high as I want to. I'm gonna run.
Yeah, so there's not a lot of like weird, crazy subs running through here. I can feel them under the console. I'll put my knees under the console and press up and see how much subs I can feel through the console, because that can help you a lot too. The console, if you're lucky enough to be mixing on a console, a lot of people aren't. There's one more song that I'm going to check for subs, because that one didn't really tell me exactly what I needed to know. This one will.
I come to tell you that the end is nigh. I come to prophesy. Yeah.
Doesn't have a super lot of like really crazy high end. It's a little darker than I'm used to, so I would immediately know that. I know that song. I produced that record. I mixed that song. I've heard it in a lot of environments. So right away, I would make two choices. I would either see if they had some kind of a EQ on the speakers on the back, if they were rolling off a little high end.
Sure.
If they were, and I preferred that they didn't, I would just change it. If that's not the case, I would just accept that things in the very top are a little dark, and that I have to be careful not to over brighten, because I don't have, in my mind, a true representation of what I'm used to. Now, it doesn't mean that this room's wrong. It just means that from where I mixed that record and where I'm used to listening to it in my studio, I have a different high end, and I have to adapt. I have to change the way that I treat the high frequencies so that I don't make it too bright to accommodate this room. Here's a very, very important thing, people. What I do have, that I always have and I always will have, is my car. My car is key to successful mixing. It's an old car. It's a crappy car. And even if I have to get a new car one day, I will keep that thing on blocks. I'm not kidding.
Just to sit in it and listen.
My stereo in my car is the exact representation of my studio. And it also sounds great to me. I understand it, so that because I'm in a new room here and I'm not in my known mixing environment, I will adapt for the fact that this room seems a little darker, but then I'll go out to my car. Without my car, I'd be lost. I would not know, did I under-brighten? Have I adapted too much? So you have to have one constant. And for me, it's my car. And for a lot of people, it's their car. I could not go out into your car. Even if you had a BMW with a fancy stereo, it would mean zero to me. It has to be my car and my stereo. And if I did not have my car and I had to mix in a new room, I would actually, in fact, decline to mix there, because there would be no way that I could know that I'm delivering what's expected of me. And as, you really do. In that way, you do need to know where you are. And if you don't know, have your constant with you, and whatever that constant is, needs to be an environment too. Earbuds don't count. Headphones do not count. Everything sounds great in headphones.
So there you have how Trina evaluates a mixing environment and how you can apply that to your own environment. Plug in a reference track, listen to a song that you know sounds fantastic in your car, and compare it to what you're hearing in your room. Then you can know, these are the weak points of my room. Maybe the highs, maybe things are too bright. Maybe things are too dark, whatever the case may be. Know that. Know your environment before you ever start mixing, before you ever open up a DAW, before you ever turn on your computer. understand how your environment sounds, and that will help you so much to make better mixes.